The following is an article involving a man killed by a bear that he had shot with buckshot. I will repeat what is said word for word. On the 4th day of May 1912, John Graham, for 30 years a hunter and trapper on the upper Yellowstone, Montana, died from injuries inflicted by a big grizzly bear. Just how the whole thing happened and how the battle was fought, no one will know, as there was no one present at the encounter and John did not live to tell us. But the facts in the case, as near as we could tell from circumstantial evidence and deduction, were about as follows. Several days previously, John had seen 2 big grizzlies in the locality where he was trapping, so he set a trap, and the day before the accident, he trapped and killed a fine specimen of grizzly. It is presumed the other bear is the one that killed him. On the morning of the accident, Graham and his partner John Howell were up before daylight, and after breakfast they started out. It was then just about good daylight. The 2 trappers separated. It was not long after they had started out before Howell heard his partner shoot one time. He thought Graham had killed the bear, so he hurried down to help him skin out the brute. When he got to within 50 yards of where the trap was set, he met Graham, who was covered in blood, staggering, falling, and rolling in the snow. He was trying to get to the cabin about a quarter of a mile from the scene of the accident. Howell immediately started for help and medical assistance. When help arrived, they found that Graham had made it to the cabin and was lying at the door on the outside. He had a wonderful amount of vitality and plenty of nerve to go that distance with a fractured skull and windpipe torn open so that he was breathing through a hole in his neck instead of his mouth or nose. His front teeth were torn out, his nose bitten off, and arms, hands, and neck badly torn and mutilated. He died within about 3 hours from the time he received the injuries. We think that John, when he went to where he had set the trap, found the bear had dragged the trap and a 12-foot toggle through a thicket, tearing down good-sized trees. He followed the bear until he found him hung up in the thick timber. John then walked to within 40 feet of the brute and shot him once. He evidently crippled the bear and probably knocked him down. The gun used by him was a 12-gauge Winchester shotgun using buckshot. John thought he had killed the bear, and he immediately took off a sack that was hung over his shoulder containing his skinning knife, rock, hatchet, etc. We think that while he was taking the sack off over his head, that the bear charged him and was upon him before the man realized what had happened. The gun was found lying flat in the snow about 6 feet from where the encounter took place. The gun had an empty shell in the barrel and 3 loaded shells in the magazine. The gun worked good, as we immediately threw a loaded shell in the chamber. Graham was an old hunter, having killed a good many bear, and would not have lost his head or got rattled, but was just careless. The bear left 2 toes, left hind foot, in the trap. He probably pulled his toes off when he was shot, as he had trampled around where the toggle was hung up between 2 large trees, which goes to show that he had been there quite a while and was probably in the trap when John shot him. Some will ask why the bear left the man until he was dead. I think that when he first came upon Graham, he cuffed him, knocked him down, knocking the gun out of his hand at the same time. The bear then jumped upon the man, chewing him about the head and neck. It is natural for a man to put up his hands and arms to protect his face, which accounts for the injuries on his hands and arms. I think the man was rendered unconscious from the severe head injury, and when he lay still on the ground, the bear thought him dead and slowly walked away. I think a bear will usually act that way, and I believe that this is the opinion of most hunters. Sometimes a bear can be chased away by beating him. About 20 years ago, an old prospector named J.S. Knowles, who lived near where this accident happened, shot a bear one day near his cabin. The bear fell down, and Knowles, thinking that he had killed him, ran up to where the bear lay. The animal was not killed, but stunned, and on seeing the man, jumped up and cuffed him, knocking him down. The bear then stood over the man and began chewing him. Knowles said some old trapper had told him that if anybody would punch a bear in the nose with his fists, the bear would run away. Knowles says he hit the bear in the nose as hard as he could. The animal, on receiving the lick, grunted and ran away. Knowles got his gun, followed the bear, and killed him. His hand was deformed for life as a result of the injury he received. The bear that killed John Graham went down into the park. After 3 days, we obtained a permit from Colonel Brett, superintendent of the Yellowstone Park, to kill the animal. In the meantime, about 2 inches of fresh snow had fallen, and it was very hard to follow tracks. We trailed him for about 1/2 mile, as there was some blood on the trail. The bear would stop behind some large trees every few yards and watch the back trail. We could tell this by the pools of blood and tracks. He was very cautious, and if a man followed too close, he would have to kill that bear, and if not careful, he would have been upon the beast before he knew it. A man cannot be too careful hunting grizzlies, and it is a good thing to have a companion in case a gun would misfire or something equally disastrous would happen. After following the bear a 1/2 mile, we got into a country that was full of other bears, and there was so many fresh tracks that we soon lost the old track. The track being so old and the country so full of fresh tracks, we did not try to use dogs, as we thought it would be useless. This old trapper has always used a 12-gauge pump gun loaded with buckshot to kill trapped bear. He has killed many bears with this gun, and has often said that no bear could ever eat him up as long as he had that gun. No doubt that kind of a gun at short range would tear a bigger hole in a bear than a rifle, but I don't think many hunters care to get that near to a grizzly. All the hunters in this section will now be looking for an old grizzly with only 3 toes on his left hind foot, and no doubt the drivers in the Yellowstone will be showing the tourists at the hotels in the park the grizzly that killed John Graham. Pertinent at this time in connection with the preceding story of a remarkable encounter by Dr. Shore is a letter received by one of Montana's oldest guides, Mr. Tom Newcomb of Gardner, who was on the scene shortly after the accident happened. We extract the following from his letter. The killing of John Graham was what anyone might expect when they go hunting the grizzly with a shotgun. The old man never told anyone just how it happened. He was very badly chewed up. The bear must have been a large one, for it looked as though he had taken hold of the old man by the head and shook him like a dog would a groundhog. The bear was caught in the trap by 2 hind toes, and it looked as if the old man had walked up to within 40 feet of the bear and shot him, then set his gun down by a tree and removed a strap from over his shoulder and laid it by the gun. At least they were found in that shape. The bear came to life and was on him before he knew it. I would advise anyone who goes after the grizzly bear to take the best gun he can get and be sure he can shoot where he wants to. A bear's neck is the only place to shoot at, especially if he is a large one. A shot through the neck is almost sure to knock him down, and that gives the man a chance to get another shot if he commences to get up. That was the end of the article, so now I can give you my opinion. Obviously, hunting bears with traps in the U.S. is illegal, so this exact situation is not going to happen again anytime soon here. Other than that, it's obviously a bit too close for comfort to get within about 13 yards of a bear in a trap. It is far safer to use a rifle for this sort of thing, so you don't have to get so close. We don't know for sure what kind of buckshot he used, only that it wasn't effective. I don't believe that they ever caught up with the bear after this, and it's entirely possible that it died of infection somewhere unknown. To my knowledge, Graham is only one of 2 people who have ever died because buckshot was not effective enough against bears. Given the fact that he killed many other bears with the same shotgun and buckshot, it's fair to say that buckshot works most of the time. Working most of the time may be good enough for some people, but it's certainly not good enough if you are killing a lot of bears, as your luck may run out someday. I'm Info Gunvault. I'm known for my articulate, detailed, and analytical approach. I dispel myths, talk about how you can avoid being attacked by angry bears, and I cover many gun-related topics. I've done a great deal of research for my videos, which is why I have hundreds of pages of notes and quotations. I'd like you to come along for the ride with me in my relentless pursuit of the truth.